My name is Elijah Maroka, and today we'll be talking about fighting food insecurity. Now, what is food insecurity? It says here that it is the state of being without reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable and nutritious food. There are 42 million people in the SNAP program, and there are 329.5 million people living in the US. That's nearly 13% of all US residents who are in SNAP. Now, what is SNAP? SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This was formerly known as the Food Stamp Program, which is a federally assisted initiative where basically a lot of people apply, but those who are eligible are those low-income and working individuals or families who may not have enough resources to meet their dietary needs. This is where SNAP comes in, and they provide benefits to those individuals to help them supplement that budget and purchase healthy and affordable food. However, SNAP is not perfect, and it's not able to meet everyone's needs and meet everyone's dietary habits. So this is where Lifeboat Boston and other volunteer programs come into play. Lifeboat Boston is a food pantry that provides fresh and nutritious food to anyone experiencing food insecurity. And basically these volunteer programs, like Lifeboat Boston, all work to supplement the lack of assistance provided by SNAP. So Lifeboat Boston specifically served over 800 families over 300,000 pounds of food, and this is only in their 4th year of serving. As it currently stands, this is still not enough, and food insecurity still persists. One solution to this on the government's end would maybe be providing more subsidies or tax incentives to people to start their own volunteer programs or something similar to this. And we think that would just really help reduce food insecurity as a whole. But another solution I would like to explore today is composting and community gardens.
Hey guys, my name's Kyler. I'm working with Eli and Mike to bring you this video to tell you about composting the SNAP program as well as urban agriculture/community gardens. So the first thing I want to talk about is community gardens. Community gardens are just little plots of land that you can either have in your backyard, at some big park, or even on a rooftop of an apartment or a community public building. But community gardens are little plots of land that you can plant a bunch of either fruits and vegetables or even just flowers. And it's a nice place to grow fresh produce free of pesticides and create nice organic food. So I just want to go over real quick the pros and cons of community gardens. So the only con I would say for community gardens is that it requires a small amount of land and time. But the time, usually from the people that I've talked to, they view that time not as a con, but as more of a pro, because it's a nice and fun way to relax, lay back, and feel like you're more in touch with the earth, as well as more in touch with the sense of community that community gardens bring about. And then as far as land goes, that could be a problem only if you're in a city, but what is coming out recently is there's more community gardens called rooftop farms, and what they do is they take advantage of unused rooftop spaces at churches, public gyms, and other buildings that have free space on the roof. So they're able to utilize that space that was currently not being used before, since a lot of the ground space is usually taken up by roads, parking lots, buildings, and stuff like that. So enough with the cons. I'll move on to the pros about community gardens. Community gardens are great. They have a lot of pros, but the 3 that I'm going to go over right now is the fact that it fights food insecurity, it reduces pollution, and it creates a great sense of community. So as far as fighting food insecurity goes, community gardens are a great way to produce organic produce that is free of pesticides and for very little cost and price. And you can taste the produce, and you can ask plenty of people who have their own community gardens. Eating fresh produce that is organic tastes way better and a lot fresher than any organic produce you would get from the supermarket. And sometimes community gardens are great because you're in a supermarket desert and there's no organic produce anywhere near you. So community gardens are a great way to fight food insecurity with that. The second one I'm going to go over, the second pro, is it reduces pollution. So it reduces pollution in a bunch of different ways, but the main ones I'm going to go over is that it improves air quality, obviously, because you'll be planting plants, and it reduces something known as urban heat island. So when you're in a city, there tends to be a lot more activity and movement inside the city versus areas around. So you'll see there's a little bit of a heat bubble inside of cities. And this can, over time, be very detrimental and create a lot of different problems for the city and the environment of the city. And community gardens, especially in the city, are one way to help the cities of the world, or even the smaller cities, the big cities as well, reduce the urban heat island and have a healthier environment in the city. And the third point I'm going to go over is that it creates a great sense of community. You'll see there's many examples if you look up many people who have community gardens around the world who start community gardens even. It lowers the crime rate of the area because people will be stopping, sitting in the streets, doing nothing, messing around, and they'll have something to do, something fun to do, a community garden. And they join these community gardens and they're able to talk and bond over this love for farming with everyone else who has plots next to them. I interviewed someone named Richie, who you're going to see soon, and he talks about the sense of community that exists as well. But you'll see a lot of the time community gardens create a great sense of community, and overall, they're just very beneficial to whatever town or city they exist in. Hi, so I'm with Richie, who owns a lovely community garden.
Fenway Victory Garden.
A lovely Fenway Victory Garden, and he is a local resident, and he's someone who has been volunteering at Lifeboat Boston with us as well. So I'm just going to ask him a couple questions regarding his community garden, how he maintains it, why he got into it, what he does, and why he loves it. So first things first, why did you get into community gardens?
I took after my grandmother and father.
Nice.
And I didn't know, because my mother told me one time my grandmother and father had a garden over here.
Yeah.
And a long time in 82, I used to work on a farm out in Bridgewater. And so that's what made me to get into the garden.
Did you have much experience, or was this also a learning process for you as well as... You had experience before this?
Yep.
Nice. Did you have experience with managing small gardens, or was it just the farming experience that you got to it?
Farm.
So was it pretty easy for you to get into farming and growing plants and fruits here?
Yeah, when I was working out in Bridgewater, long time ago, they had a thing called summer job.
The fruits and vegetables and stuff that you grow here, who eats them? What do you end up doing with the produce and the flowers and stuff that you get from here?
I give them to some people, or sometimes we take the vegetables and take it home. While some people walk by, I just give it to them too.
Nice.
I like to share.
Is everyone for the most part very friendly and sharing, or is it more isolated?
It's in between. But when I come here, I like to work in it because when you grow the vegetables, it tastes a lot different from the stores.
Why do they taste different?
Because we don't use no chemicals, everything's organic.
Nice, so fun. Yeah, I just have a few more questions.
Yep.
It's been a great interview so far.
Sure.
I noticed the spin bin over there. I'm not sure what that is. Is that a compost barrel?
Compost bin.
So, how long have you been composting with the garden?
I just got the compost bin last year.
Oh, nice.
Because a friend of mine, she used to have a garden, and she had a garden, and she moved to Somerville. And then she called me a couple of times. She said, "Oh, I have this if you want it." And I said, "What?" She said, "I had a compost bin if you want it." So she gave it to us like not last year, other years.
Would you say that most of the people who do the community gardens and stuff also do some composting and have compost bins in their garden?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
What's the one thing that you love most about your garden here?
Planting the tulips. Because when you grow the flowers, you can smell it. It smells nice. And then sometimes when the ladies walk by, I get them some tulips or daffodils. I get them some. And some lady I know for a long time, they live in Tina's complex. Because the elderly gentleman I knew used to live there.
Yep.
And so every time when I grow the tulips or daffodils, I used to give it to them. When they walk by, I used to get them flowers, roses, or daffodils. I used to give it to them.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool.
And so I like to do that. I like to get ladies the flowers because it makes them happy. And so that's what I like.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that's the interview. I think we'll conclude it there. Thank you so much.
You're
this
welcome.
has been great. Yeah. So thank you so much for having us in your community garden. It's absolutely beautiful here.
And you're more than welcome to come here too. Richard Dunshee, D-U-N-S-H-E-E.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
I had it garden June 25th, 1994.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richie, so much for a great interview. So just to conclude some of the points that he made during the interview, community gardens are a great way to grow very yummy and delicious organic food. They also create a great sense of community and a great place to share. And last but not least, the community garden community is very closely intertwined with the composting community. So if there's a community garden, there's usually composting. So on that note, I'm gonna pass the video over to my buddy Mike, and he's gonna tell you more about composting.
According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, there is a 6-tier hierarchy for ways to deal with food waste. Number 1 is source reduction, meaning preventing food from being wasted at the source. Number 2 is feeding hungry people in need. Number 3 would be feeding animals. Number 4, industrial use. And 5, we have composting, which is obviously better than landfill and incineration. So there are a bunch of tech startups nowadays creating technological innovations to deal with food waste, but this solution isn't really quite viable for the everyday person or even the everyday business. But in a couple of years, this will start to gain more traction and be implemented into more operations. But now, compost is one of the most easy and best ways that people can solve food waste on an individual basis. So there's backyard composting, which anyone can do with any food scraps that they may produce from their household. And you just have a little bin outside where you put all your food scraps, and that naturally composts. And a really unique thing that we saw with Richie in our interview is that we can use this compost to act as a fertilizer for community gardens, which grow more food. And this creates a really nice cycle where we grow new plants, we eat them, and we take what's unfortunately left over and we compost it so that it's not actually going completely to waste, and it decomposes and mixes with soil and goes back into the garden that grew the plants. And we have this really sustainable cycle that leads to less food being completely wasted, and it's just a more sustainable way to grow food, eat food, and live. Thank you, Richie, for being such a great example of what a community member should look like and helping us reduce food waste and create a more sustainable community.
And thank you guys, the viewers, for watching our video.
So overall, we all had a really great time volunteering at Lifeboat Boston, and we engaged in different activities such as packing grocery bags, delivering food, and stacking boxes. And we met a lot of great people there, such as Richie, of course, and Marlon and Nancy and other great people.
Yeah, and even if you can't grow your own community garden and do composting like Richie is, anything helps with the food waste problem. So like, if you're looking into volunteering like we did at Lifeboat, that's a really good place to start. And yeah, we just need more community support for food waste.
Yeah, and even if you can't volunteer at an organization, the least you can do is just be aware of what you're putting on your plate. Make sure your eyes aren't bigger than your stomach, and try not to waste food inside the house if you can. So thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
Thank you.